Good afternoon to the Urban Landlord audience. I am your host, HB2N. This is the debate for America. Stanley Cross versus Be Brave and Think. We'll be discussing politics, race, and culture. We are discussing the fabric of America today, ladies and gentlemen. This is a very serious debate. Both of these gentlemen are prepared to go to war for America. I need everybody in the chat to hit the like button, subscribe if you're new here, and please, if you appreciate what we're doing here today, make sure you donate to Cash App $ Portia J. She will be splitting all the proceeds to Be Brave and Think and Stanley Cross. These gentlemen have lived a long life. They've seen a lot of wisdom from both of them. And I hope you guys can appreciate that they're taking their time out today to discuss the fabric of America. Let me acknowledge the chat real quick. I definitely appreciate everybody. We got Here for the Tea. Good afternoon. Here for the Tea. Child. Nate Ways is in the building. Mr. John Galt is in the building. Plasma Void. Blue Chunks. Appreciate that. San Jose Made. 12th Man is in the building. We're going to get started, you guys. We're going to have a 3-minute cap on these responses. We're going to start out by introducing first, you guys know him as Stanley Cross, Navy veteran, father of one, man that has read over 10,000 books. He is representing America. He served his nation. We got Stanley Cross in the building. Stanley Cross, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Only 10,000?
Only 10,000 and counting. 10,000 and counting. 10,000 and counting. Now we have good to see you, Stanley. Now we have you guys know him. He's very infamous on these streets. One of the best shit talkers that I've ever seen. Proud American, proud man, very opinionated. Be brave and think to the stage. Be brave and think, man. How's it going?
I think I've read a total of, seriously, entire books. I think I've read a total of 7.
Oh, this is going to be
a whole lot of bits and pieces, but yeah. Okay.
This is going to be interesting. How you feeling, Brave?
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
Okay.
Full of observations. That's what we're doing.
Stanley, how you feeling?
Pretty good.
Okay. All right.
I even got rest.
Okay. You look well rested. I do want to remind the chat one more time, if you guys want to help sponsor this debate and to see debates moving forward, please donate to the bank at Portia J. Any Cash App or donation will be acknowledged, and we will be splitting them between the two. Portia, let me know in the back chat when people do donate, and we'll make sure we acknowledge all of that. So we're going to start this off. Here are the rules, gentlemen. You'll have a max of 3 minutes to respond to these questions. Stanley is the home team, so Brave, you will be answering the questions first. Is everybody okay with that?
No, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, gentlemen. We're going to go with the first question here. Now, this is a question that Stanley actually wanted to know. What does it mean to be pro-Black? Be brave. Go ahead.
Well, nowadays, I think it's a shame that it has come to mean what it has come to mean. It's terrible, in fact. I could never fault the Black Americans for wanting to come together as a group. I understand that 40. There's only 40 million of them. I understand that fully. But I think pro-black has come to mean an exaggerated fear of whitey, and it's like the problem with that is while the pro-blacks are and showing are complaining about whitey, they're really letting the inner cities that really need their attention as far as criticism and critiques, the inner cities being left completely unacknowledged. There's a small percentage of Black Americans doing a great deal of damage to the inner cities. So when the pro-black, when they get in that frame of mind, and I'm talking in general, I'm not being specific about any person. I'm adding up all the pro-blacks I hear talk. They're way, way too concerned with the white man. Racism is as fixed as it's ever going to get. It's time for pro-blacks. If I were to be a black man and I wanted to reform the pro-black movement, it's time for them to really start criticizing who it is that's really causing the black race the problems in this country. And the fact that they don't do that means that to be pro-black has kind of almost come to be something that's sad. I think that if you really, if you really look into it, listen to pro-blacks, who they are, what they're saying, and you'll never hear them criticize the things that are really destroying the black communities in the inner cities. I understand that nobody's expected to go back and then fix the inner cities. My point about pro-blacks, though, is that if you're going to utter an opinion, make the opinion valuable to a point to where it addresses something. When the pro-blacks talk about whitey, I can't think of a more wasted manner of thinking at all. And I must give Stanley credit. I do not hear him blaming whitey at all. Bless his heart. But when I hear pro-blacks speak and they're worried about whitey, it's quite a waste considering what's needed to be talked about in the black community. I'm good, HB.
Okay. You had about 15 seconds left on the clock.
Good.
Stanley, same question to you. What does it mean to be pro-black, Stanley?
I have no clue what it means. People call me pro-black. My response to that is I'm not, if not being anti-black is pro-black, then I'm pro-black. I think it's basically a pejorative that I hear black people in this particular space, well, pretty much everybody in this space almost, if you say nothing's wrong with the black community, excuse me, then you are, quote, pro-black. And what I want to point out, the inner city is not where all black people live. Most black people do not live even in urban areas. So I personally have never lived in the ghetto, wasn't born in the ghetto. Why would I feel responsible for fixing it? And that's pretty much my response. Is pro-black? I have no clue what it means. I'm not anti-black. Seems to be, everyone's answer.
Okay, Stanley. Be Brave, would you like to respond to that? Oh, wait, sorry about that, Be Brave. I muted your mic. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Be Brave.
Okay. How we doing? You got me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Yeah. When I'm speaking of pro-black and when I think pro-black, I'm thinking people that are not thinking real clearly. I understand that it's not anybody's obligation to fix the inner cities. But if you're going to speak real passionately about race matters in this country, that's what pro-blacks seem to want to do. And I'm saying if you're going to speak passionately about something, you have to be you have to prioritize. Whitey isn't the problem for black people. Again, it's not. The inner cities is the biggest problem for black people. I understand most don't live there. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the inner cities and the blacks that are in the inner cities, what they're doing is they're making it so people don't want to live around blacks at all. And that's the sad part about it. So if you're and I'll wrap this up. If you're pro-black, you need to prioritize and get some courage and start discussing the reason why people are running away from living around blacks at all. And I think that's what I'm saying when pro-blacks are messing up, because if you got that passion, they really need to do something and be more creative with it. I'm good.
Stanley, do you have to reply?
Yeah, I think passion is the problem. Okay, you don't solve problems, with you solve problems objectively. You solve it with critical thinking. Passion doesn't solve problems. Oh, and by the way, the inner city, because most blacks don't live there, I don't agree that it is black people's problem. If people don't want to live around blacks because of what's happening in the inner city, don't move to the inner city.
Or do you have a rebuttal to that?
On passion, passion is the initial energy. That's all I was referring to. But he's right. If I'm still saying, if you got that energy and you want to put it in that direction, they really need to focus on what's going on. And again, if you talk about moving away from blacks in the inner city, I understand that fully. But the blacks in the inner city are causing a great deal of headaches for everybody across the country because they're spreading. I'm good. Got it.
Okay. I think we've pretty much covered this question. I do want to remind the audience to please hit the like button, subscribe if you're new here, and please donate to Portia J Cash App. Proceeds will be going to both Stanley and Be Brave. We're going to move on to the next question. Next question, and Be Brave, you'll be answering this first. Are Black Americans responsible for the degradation of the fabric of America?
Could you put it up on the screen? So that's a long question.
Give me 1 second. It's about to pop up on the screen right now.
Yeah.
Are Black Americans responsible for the degradation of the fabric of America?
They're the biggest factor by far right now. There's many things that the American culture is going down the drain because of. Black Americans are the biggest problem to America right now, simply because there's just too much excuse making and apologizing. I'm not giving any numbers. There's too much excuse making and apologizing. And then there's people that realize that they're going to have cover because of that excuse making and apologizing. For the people, and you see that on major networks, the Joy Reids and the Roland Martins and the Richard Richies, you'll never see these people ever confront the headaches that the blacks are doing to their own areas where they live in the inner cities. And that's why I say when you got the inner cities, then they're not being confronted at all. And you got the same repetitious group of people doing these dastardly crimes. It has to be somewhere stated or thought of that probably this is the biggest problem facing the USA right now. There's no other group of people that are destroying the places they live like blacks in the inner city are destroying where they live. There's no other group of people doing that, nothing even close. So it's just a matter of, if you look at it, and again, you figure out what's stopping people from riding city buses. As a bottom feeder loser, if I lived in the inner cities, I'd be a bus rider, I'd be a train rider, I'd be a public transportation. I think it's a phenomenal thing, and that people have to concern themselves with it. John McWhorter said, Glenn Lowry's left-hand man, he's a leftist, and he said in his 25 years of riding the subway with his family, he never once had to worry about white people on the subway. And so this is getting worse because it's getting the media is fueling it, the media is pushing it, the media is giving cover. I look at the media as an entity that is using the blacks as a weapon. I don't care who owns the media. I'm not worried about that. But yeah, no. Right now in America, if there's one thing that could be fixed, that could really take in and encompass would encompass all of the people really just relaxing and having a better life. It's to stop the street crime that's being done by blacks throughout the country, and the street crime in the Southwest that's being done by Hispanics. And the Hispanics in the Southwest are not doing what the blacks across the nation are doing. So yes, blacks are, yes. People don't see it, but if you look at all that it involves, all that it affects, and the far-reaching effects of people just feeling safe, blacks are tearing up the American culture more so than probably any one factor that a person can think of.
Okay. Rating time, be brave. 5 seconds. Stanley, same question. Are Black Americans responsible for the degradation of the fabric of America?
Can you hear me?
Yep. Yes, sir.
There's a Stanley cross in the chat that's not me.
Okay. Yeah, I do see the trolls are heavy.
It was, the comment I saw was actually pretty funny.
Yeah, he's trolling very well this morning. God bless you.
Right. The one thing I want to say, I want to reiterate, most blacks don't live in the inner city or even in urban areas. So in my opinion, if what's happening in the inner city is the biggest problem, it's a very small group of blacks. I think lumping all blacks in is identity politics, which, I hear so many people railing against, the left and the right. If you think the inner city is all Black Americans' problem, that's identity politics. And that I could be more specific about what it is, but for the sake of brevity, I'll stop here. Identity politics might be one of the biggest things killing American culture. All blacks do not live in the inner city. It is not all blacks' problem. What's happening in the inner city, it is a very specific group of blacks who live in the inner city. And that's pretty much it for me.
So you're saying it's not the blacks, it's the identity politics that's ruining the degradation, or that's contributing to the degradation of America.
A lot of people would agree with me. I think that everything is identity politics, but to me, if the statement is the crime in the inner city is the biggest problem in the Black community, I would disagree with that. Most blacks don't live in the inner city. I think when you start talking pro-Black and pro-white or pro-group, any racial group, that's a textbook definition of identity politics. So, yep, I'll go with identity politics. That's probably closer to the truth than blacks are destroying American culture.
Okay. Be brave. Do you have a rebuttal to that?
Yeah, it's I haven't even really looked up what the hell identity politics could mean in a definition of a modern definition. What blacks are doing in the inner cities is they're making it so whites don't want to live around blacks. That's not identity. That's people saying, I don't want to live around people that's going to bring about pretty quick decay wherever they move to. That's just being whites taking advantage of what they've had. Whites have had a very easy life. Whites have had a very comfy life here. So have blacks. We've all lived like gods. We all have. So I don't think it's identity politics as much as there's too many blacks. Again, let me reiterate, there's too many blacks that are apologizing and making excuses for these people that have no concern about any other black people. Basically, they're behaving as psychopaths. And we're not calling it that. We call them criminals or youth or something of that nature. But it's psychopathic behavior because of, first of all, what they do to their own people that they live around, which isn't horrible other than to dominate them and dare them to do something like tell them to turn their music down. and then they spread out into areas in the city, which is they're spreading out. With Section 8, they're becoming what I call a cancer now. So I don't think of it as identity politics. I think of it as solely, surely, and it's inescapable that there's one group of people that are really causing a lot of headaches for all the other groups together, and all the other groups combined aren't causing the headaches that this one group is causing.
Stanley, do you would you like to rebuttal that? Hold on, let me unmute you real quick. Go ahead.
If whites don't want to live around blacks, that's a textbook definition of identity politics. I don't know how to do much more of a rebuttal than that.
Okay.
Right quick, let me add, it's just a matter of self-preservation. I don't consider it politics. Go ahead.
Okay. What do you think about that, Stanley?
I think if the statement that I heard, whites don't want to live around blacks, assuming all blacks live in the inner city, to me. But when you say white and when you say black, those are racial identities. That is a textbook definition of identity politics. Identity politics is probably closer to the truth as far as ruining American culture. And this is something that the left and the right talk about.
Okay, I think
it's racism more than it is identity politics. Whites are racist due to self-preservation. You can call it identity politics because whites aren't worried about a lot of other groups that move around them. So, I think it has now become a mild form of racism. I call it culturalism because I think that's what most whites are doing. They're being culturalist rather than they're in culturalism rather than racism, and it's fully understandable why. It's not about all the blacks living in the inner cities. It's about people just have to worry about who comes along with the blacks that can actually move from the inner city, what relatives come along with them.
Stanley?
If 3% of a group that's committing most of the crime are being identified with all blacks, when you say whites don't want to live around blacks because of 3% of blacks in the inner city, that is identifying 3% of a population with the rest of the population, and the other race does not want to live around that population because of the 3%. That is textbook identity politics.
Well, I'll go with that. I think of it as textbook culturalism. Culturalism. You can call it identity politics. We can disagree.
Well, let me make this statement. You would have to have read the textbook to know what the textbook says.
Be damn.
There we go. There's Stanley. That's the Stanley I know.
Yeah, he's coming out. He's waking up.
Okay. I think we've exhausted that question. So, again, to the audience, make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe if you're new here, and if you want to help sponsor this great debate. Sorry about that. Between Stanley Cross and Be Brave and Think. Hit the Cash App, Portia J, scrolling at the bottom. All proceeds will be split right down the middle to both of these gentlemen. Next question. Has systematic racism had a lasting impact on Black communities in America? Be brave. It's on you.
You got the question up?
Well, just give me 1 second. It'll pop up in 1 second. Right. There's like a little bit of delay. So the question will be brought up in 1 second. I'll say it one more time. Okay. Has systematic racism had a lasting impact on Black communities in America?
Yes, of course. There's no way around that. So you got to get into the degree or the manner of is it, what problem did it create? What other things has it done? As far as what it has done is it's kept Black people in unity. It's a shame because black people that are together and they want to be a unit. Again, as I said earlier, they're not prioritizing correctly. But systematic racism has done what the damage that systematic racism has done is probably stopped when the civil rights hit. That's when the 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 blacks were okay. Whitey's off your back. Whitey's done. The systematic racism that existed after that was certainly existing. I've always been one to never deny white privilege. But right now, systematic racism, what it has done, it should be dwindling, and it should the fear of it should be dwindling among blacks. It's a matter of there's still the blacks are still like say white Americans in the USA live better than anybody in the world. White Americans in the USA live anybody better than anybody in the world because we do. Black Americans are right behind them. They're not. It's not this big gap. No, no, no. Nice try, black folks. You're right behind whites as far as enjoying the wonders of this nation and this culture. You're right behind us. So the systematic racism probably has the lasting effect more than memory rather than anything that should be reacted to. That's what I'm saying. A memory is okay. I understand it. People are crutching on it. They're now using it for a crutch, and that is destroying the black community. Go ahead.
Okay, question to you. Same question, Stanley. Has systematic racism had a lasting impact on black communities in America?
The answer is yes. All I have to say is look up the wealth and income gaps that are historical. For a while at the end of the 60s and the early 70s, those gaps started closing slightly. Around the mid 70s into the 80s, they started widening again. Um, the next thing is whitey off your back basically means that, the discrimination laws, the segregation, all that stuff got reversed legally, but whitey off your back isn't a solution. The problem is the quote hangover. After 350 years, or let's not even talk about slavery. Let's talk about Jim Crow. Post Reconstruction to 1964, that probably did more damage to wealth and income gaps, education gaps, etc., than slavery ever did. If you recall, right after Reconstruction, there was about 10 years where blacks were doing fairly well, into Congress, politics, all that stuff, and then it got shut down in 1876, 1877. Then Jim Crow started. Then, the real segregation started. You don't erase 150 years of oppression in 61 years. Now, how am I doing on time? Because I'm afraid I'm going to go over.
You have a minute and 30 seconds left, Stanley.
Okay. So, like I said, and the idea that whites are doing great and blacks are just behind them, I'm going to remind Be Brave that actually Asians, smaller group, of course, but they're doing way better than white people as far as income and wealth. So, I guess blacks, if I recall, it's Asians, whites, Hispanics, blacks. All that to say that I think comparing, a black population to the rest of the African diaspora, that's just rhetoric. We want to compare Americans to Americans, not Americans to Tanzanians, or Black Americans to Tanzanians. I think that's just the wrong framing. That's pretty much it. You're comparing apples to oranges, and basically, again, it's identity politics. If you're black in America, you're doing better than blacks in Africa. Identity politics, it's the wrong framing.
Be Brave, would you like to respond to that?
Yes. First of all, 150 years of oppression has been erased with 60 years of magnificent opportunities and the godlike living standard that we have in this country. That 150 years of oppression was washed away due to the magnificence of all of the living standard of everybody in this nation. For people in this country living as well as we do, is it compared to the rest of the world, even Europe. Okay, go past Europe, now go into the third world countries. For anybody to think that the 150 years of oppression were not completely done away with the magnificent living standard is ridiculous. And Asians, the reason Asians are not doing better than whites, they're doing better than whites in income, they're doing better than whites in education. What they're not doing is they're not upholding the white culture that has been the 100-year magnificence on the planet in the history of the species. That's why I say whites are at the very top, because we are the group of people that are the absolute most productive people on the planet. We probably have the highest collective IQ of anybody on the planet, including Asians. So it's not a matter of income or education. When I speak of white magnificence, it's a matter of where we live. Everybody wants to come where we're at, including Asians. Nobody wants to go to where Asians live. Of course, people want to try it out and mess with it. But when it comes to like bringing a family, everybody in the world wants to come where this white man established this country here. That's why when I say whites are at the top, we're at the top. And I'm telling you, Asians you're right. Education and finances, I don't count that. I count the ease of living and the comfort of getting up every day and living your life. Whites are first, blacks are right behind them. That erased all the 150 years of oppression. The 60 years of magnificence, if blacks still thinking of 150 years of oppression while they're living like gods, I would hate to be a black man that has to meet his maker with that silly self-pity.
Stanley?
Well, what Brave is calling self-pity, I will call facts. Okay, you go and you read your own white authors, people like Charles Murray. He will be the first to admit that if we're gonna go strictly by IQ scores, whites are not at the tippy top. And to be honest, just to kind of go off script and be all non-scholastic about it, white people have gotten lazy because of the magnificence you talk about, and I won't bring up examples, though I have one in mind. So all I have to say again, that identity politics, whites at the tippy top, the magnificence of 60 years. I'm just gonna go ahead and chuckle lightly and suggest that you read Charles Murray. He's white. He disagrees with you.
Okay. Charles Murray said nothing about collective IQ. I said collective IQ.
Charles Murray wrote The Bell Curve, which is specifically about IQ. I would like you to read that and maybe write him and criticize him. He literally wrote a book on group and collective IQ.
I stand corrected. He wrote a correct collective IQ in that book, or just individual IQ?
Nope. He basically, one of the problems I have with the bell curve is he groups people by race, Asian, Hispanic, Black. He literally groups people by race. That race is a collective.
No.
Identity. Okay, sir, I'm not going to even debate it. Well, read the bell curve. He literally.
Do I get my time?
People.
Yeah.
He literally classifies by race, IQ by race, not individual.
Okay, Stanley.
I'm sorry if I went overboard there. Let me mute.
No. Go ahead, Brave. You can respond.
I do declare that book, I haven't read it. Everything I've heard about it is talking about the individuals within the group. He's correct. When I'm speaking of collective IQ, and that's a thing, I'm talking about a culture that has come together with an agreement and a behavior that manifests itself in something that shows that this group is probably doing things way better than any other group on the planet. The collective IQ is what I am speaking of. I don't think Charles Murray. I'll have to look it up, and I will, Stanley. But I think he was talking about groups, and then he was going down to individuals within the group, because he was talking about the group as a whole, but the individual, he was assigning it like an individual IQ to it. But what I'm talking about, and it is a real thing, the collective IQ is where the whites stand supreme on this planet. You can tell, as white people, our intelligence throughout we own the northern hemisphere of the planet. That's not because we're stupid. That's not because the Asians are smarter than us. We did something very correctly, and that is an indication of a real concrete, not a division or not an individual IQ that's assigned to a group. I'm saying the collective IQ, that whole group as they act, is the collective. And our IQ, I'm saying, is superior on the planet, and it's obvious by where we live.
Okay. I think we've exhausted that question. Stanley, do you have any replies to that?
I don't know that I want to debate someone who hasn't read the book. I have. What he says in the book, he does most of the book talking about group general intelligence. G is what IQ measures. He does say that, hey, you cannot judge individuals necessarily. There will be individuals who are way smarter than the group, the collective IQ. The book is about collective IQ. It is essentially, something that I don't necessarily agree with, but I recommend you read the book. It may educate you a little bit on how IQ and general intelligence works.
Okay.
So that's it for me.
Okay. Well, we did kind of move away from the question, but you guys answered it. And just so you know, you guys are doing very great here. Again, to the chat, make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe if you're new here. If you want to help sponsor this great debate, hit the Cash App below, Portia J. The next question, also about race, should the U.S. government provide reparations for the historical injustices of slavery and Jim Crow laws? Be brave. It's on you.
No, the black Americans actually owe the white culture reparations, considering how we've taken care of them like children since the civil rights movement and since they got Whitey off their back. We still take care of them like children. I know they're a successful black people. I get it. The black group, the 40 million black Americans in this country are housed, fed, as our poor white trash, housed, fed, air conditioning, food, Section 8, everything. And if you add up the crime costs, the cost of cities to clean up after black crime, and you add up the problems black cause wherever they're, like when you just go anywhere they're at, and you'll see black people raising hell in businesses. Just the whole thing that the blacks have done. The black race in America has had so much money spent upon it to treat it with kid gloves. There's no way that we owe them money as far as a payment. And if anybody should get reparations, it would be the third world, because of what the corporate machine has went in and done in the third world. That's where reparations should happen. The black Americans that live like gods, that are already having white people clean up after them like children, they want reparations. To me, is amazing.
Okay. Stanley, same question to you. Should the U.S. government provide reparations for the historical injustices of slavery and Jim Crow laws?
The answer is yes. But the reality is, black people shouldn't hold their breath. I think that there are some individual cases. Bruce's Beach, I've talked about in California. Reparations happen. I think it's something that it's so complicated, and a lot of the history's just been buried or ignored. Yes, I think their due won't happen. Black people should not, but we should move smartly towards whatever the future holds. Um, and one other thing I want to add, I hear a lot of people in these, particular spaces like ours. They're tired of hearing about slavery. Well, no one actually talks about Jim Crow. I've heard the argument made, and reluctantly I agree with it, that slavery was legal. Whether we like it or not, whether it was moral a lot or not. Um, you could make the argument that, hey, everybody had it. Thomas Sowell makes that kind of argument. I think the better argument and the focus should be more on Jim Crow. As I said earlier, that's where the real damage was done. After slavery was over, voting rights were eventually suppressed legally, education, segregation academies, just all kinds of things that would hold, except for like that 10%, the elites within the Black community, they were, pretty much not that harmed. It's, what would be the middle class and the working class? That's where the real damage was done. And then coming, once the laws have been changed, and civil rights has kind of gotten close to achieving its goal, you're basically starting from zero or starting from scratch. 61 years, in my opinion, was not enough. And affirmative action and programs like that were positive actions to fix problems. The monkey's off your back or the white man's off your back, just kind of let it flow. You'll be okay. Yeah, that's in 100 or 200 years, sure, we'll be okay. So, in short, yes to reparations. The caveat is don't hold your breath.
Okay, let me ask you too, Stanley. Do you think Brave said that Black people actually owe whites reparations? What do you think about that?
I think that's ridiculous.
Brave, do you have a rebuttal to that?
Add up the money that that's being spent on blacks by the taxpayers. Add it up.
Black
Even if
pay
they don't owe,
taxes too.
that's a second interruption, right?
Hold on a second, Stanley. Hold on. Let him reply, Stanley.
Blacks have lived so well that, and we've spent so much money on them that even if they don't owe whites reparations, we don't owe them anything. It's not even we. It's a matter of the corporate controlled government did what it did. White people went along with it. All right. Now let's say this right quick. So, but the whole thing with Jim Crow, there were poor whites all over the place during Jim Crow. It was just segregation that probably served a very good purpose for the day. And after the segregation was over, right now, blacks in this country are living like gods, just as whites are. I don't know where blacks think that people owe them money, when in reality, and I would say that we owed them money if let's say they weren't causing the problems they were causing, but yet having a hard time due to remaining systemic racism, which there is no remaining systemic racism. So
Brave,
that
go ahead.
we ran out of time.
No. I was just going to ask you, do you think some of those issues are caused by not having the reparations being paid?
No, life is too easy. If you want to look at poverty that causes problems, go to a third world country. That's where poverty is at. There's no poverty in America. We got water. I know there are tent cities. I get it, folks, of drug addicts and stupid people that didn't buy houses properly. But the blacks that are causing the problem are housed. They got running water. They flush their stool. They got heat and AC, and they've got job opportunities that rain on them. All they got to do is a black person, and I'll always say this to any black man, clean up like whites do, you'll get a job anywhere you want it, because whites want one thing. They want black representation in their business. Even if they're racist, they want black representation in their business, because many times they are going after contracts that deal with tax dollars. So no, there's no way that you can blame the behavior, the condition of blacks in America right now is nothing but purely self-inflicted by black people themselves.
All right. Stanley, you have a reply to that?
There's a book called Here to Equality by an economics professor at Duke. It's Duke. Pretty sure he's at Duke, either Duke or UNC, University of North Carolina, that pretty much lays out the reparations case. Just to be clear, reparations as they're framed now are not, money to fix a wealth gap or anything like that. They're basically framing it as a legal case. There was harm done. There's documented harm done. Bruce's Beach is a good example of that. This stuff is documented. If it's framed as a legal matter, that basically, should clear up why reparations should be done. But in the case of Bruce's Beach, there was generational wealth lost. Okay, basically, who knows how many millions of dollars were lost down through the generations before the property was restored. You can document these cases. I think people probably want to overcomplicate it, and but again, we're not going to hold our breath.
Now,
so that's pretty much it.
Now, this does kind of go to the next question.
Can I wrap up right quick?
Yeah, go ahead, Brave.
Give me 30 seconds.
Yep.
Ask blacks that think we should get reparations if they want to live anywhere else in the world. That tells the tale. There's no place like America. Blacks are in on it. Go ahead.
Stanley, do you want to reply to that?
I have no clue what he's getting at. What does it have? What does reparations for past, injustices have to do with where you live, other than they happened in America, and we live in a system where people sue the government all the time for damage done. That's my response.
I had my say.
Okay.
Blacks live like gods. They don't need money. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, this does go to my next question, and to the chat, make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe. If you want to help sponsor this episode, this debate, please hit the Cash App below, scrolling at the bottom. What are the long-term effects of redlining on racial wealth disparities today? Brave, it's on you.
The long-term effects are that there are no real intense long-term effects. The blacks that, again, for the last 60 years, the blacks have had a situation where they said, I'm black, you better treat me right. And I don't mind that. I'm not against that. After Jim Crow, if I was a black man, I'm saying I'm black. You better treat me right. So the redlining that occurred was also done for a lot of poor people. There was the government organization that started making loans after the war. It's HOLC or something like that. There were more black mortgage holders in that private company's business than any other private loan mortgage company. FHA is where it came in. FHA, the Federal Housing Administration, started the redlining. Took the redlining and kind of kept it alive. And the reason that happened a lot was because the FHA was into building new homes, which protecting the investment of homes, they moved whitey into them. So does redline have a lasting effect? No. There's too many poor white people that didn't get in on anything either. Immigrants coming over. immigrants from third world countries. They're all fabulously doing very well. And all of a sudden, the poor little blacks just can't get it together because of redlining. It's silly to think that the past so many decades ago has any lasting effect right now on these young people that basically have everything laid out before them and are turning their backs on it and turning into and relying more on their anger for their thinking than their preconceiving of what they need to do in the business world.
Okay. Stanley, same question. What are the long-term effects of redlining on racial wealth disparities today?
Well, mainly wealth. I mean, the home being, a lot of people's biggest asset or investment. Not being able to take out mortgages. I mean, mortgages were basically, withheld on houses that were redlined. That money couldn't be used to finance a college education or start a business or anything like that. I want to bring up one historical point, though. There were the Homestead Acts in the 1850s where white people, white immigrants specifically, were given large tracts of land. So poor white people not getting anything, uh, depending on when you want to ask when that wasn't happening, there's a whole history behind the Homestead Act. So immigrants did get, some free stuff as far as land, that sort of thing. So that's just inaccurate. So wealth disparities, I think that was the biggest impact of redlining. And if, like Bruce's Beach, generational wealth was not something that the Bruce family could capitalize on, it's probably immeasurable how much generational wealth was missed out on. So financial,
Hmm.
wealth disparity, that was the main impact of redlining on the black community. And I'm sure whites too, but blacks were disproportionately affected. So
Okay.
Right quick, then, I'm not talking about immigrants that got in on the Homestead Act. I'm talking about immigrants that come over here today, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Look what they're able to do. That proves that the redlining basically almost has become nothing as far as damaging to a group of people. The blacks are using that as a crutch again, in like so many of the crutches they use. There's nobody saying things were perfect. I'm not. What I'm saying is things landed in such a magnificent realm that for blacks to worry about this stuff that happened in the past, to me, is absurd, considering we're living like gods, all of us. And look what the modern immigrants do when they come over here and how well they do. And blacks aren't catching on to that. I'm done. I got it.
Stanley.
well, history speaks for itself. Uh, Redlining, my argument is that redlining had lasting effects. Of course, if you bought a house or, 20 years ago was what, 19, right around the turn of the century. Of course, redlining was made illegal back in like 1968 or something like that. So, of course, 20 years ago, redlining wouldn't be affecting anybody. It's the legacy effects that I'm talking about. So,
Oh, as a correction, so was I. I'm sorry.
wait, was that an interruption?
I thought you were done. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. Yours was intentional. Mine was an accident. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Stanley. Go ahead.
Oh no, no, I'm done.
Okay.
I can't argue with history, and being ahistorical again is not a cogent reply in my opinion.
And Stanley, you are correct. The Fair Housing Act was enacted in 1968. So that was when redlining was ended.
Yes.
Um,
let me be sure on something. I know redlining ended a long time ago. That's my point. I'm not saying it existed 20 years ago. I'm saying the immigrants that come over here are doing phenomenally well because of this white culture that they're a part of. I know redlining was a long time ago. I'm saying the effects of it. Uh, Certainly, I'm not denying that there aren't people that were done out of legacy wealth, but a whole lot of people, a lot of black people, it's obvious that they're turning their backs on the modern magnificence. That's my point.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, I think you guys made some great points there. I think you guys both sort of agreed. It's just what degree do you guys believe it affects people today, black people specifically? Um, we're going to move on to the next question. Um, Now, this is about crime in the black community and the media that covers it. So I want to ask you guys, how does media coverage of crime shape and reinforce racial stereotypes? Be brave, it's on you.
Unless you're thinking that these all of these closed circuit cameras and news feeds are computer generated images, you can look for yourself and you can search any crime you wish. Um, Go ahead and search carjackings, driveway robberies, uh, smash and grabs, mob robberies, gas station shootouts, armed robberies, restaurant destroyed by blacks, grocery store fusses. Uh, just go ahead and search any of those and put in it this, and this caught on camera, and you'll see who's doing it. Now, if that's a media thing, I'm going, well, because you know me, I'm a conspiracy theorist. Okay, I am, but I'm going, when you search this stuff and you got one video of another, maybe a white or Hispanic, and you got five of them that are black folks doing it, you get a pretty good accurate picture that the media isn't making things up. What the media actually does is distort into it, making it more severe what white crime has been. That's what the media does. Media, if they're out after anybody, is trying to make Whitey look much worse than Whitey is. Such as that when you Google in mass shootings, you've got 82 mass shooters that are white, 25 that are black. From 1982 to 2024, that's 42 years. They got that span. When the definition of mass shooting is four or more injured or killed in a single incident, there was 670 of them in 2023. There was 500 of them in 2024. This year so far, there are 73. Of all of those mass shootings in those last couple of years, 60% of them have no suspects in custody. So, those people are out there still shooting. So if the media is trying to play this up to create division of some sort, what they're actually doing is probably making Whitey look worse than he is. You got real mass shooters in the last 4 years, about three of them are white, maybe four in the last 3 years. So, but yet if you ask somebody, who are the mass shooters? They say whites without batting an eye. That's media propaganda. They left out all the 670 and 23 and the 500 last year, and they left out the 73 so far this year. And a lot of those suspects are still not caught. Show me a white mass shooter. He either kills himself or whites turn him in. That's where the media's distortion is. The media is not distorting black crime. I think the media is covering up actually how the horrendous nature and the numbers of black crimes that don't get reported in the media.
Yep, you got 8 seconds left, be brave. So, Stanley, it's on you. How does media coverage, hold on, how does media coverage of crime shape and reinforce racial stereotypes?
I think, much like government, media doesn't operate in a vacuum. I think it reflects its consumers. Um, they want to sell newspapers. They want to sell ads. They're giving America what it expects the media to do. So I, if the media is to blame, it's because, hey, they want to make money and they know what Americans will consume. As far as, I've often wondered what would happen if we just stopped keeping racial categories for crime and just called it crime. I wonder how, quote, Whitey would feel about that. I bet they would want it broken out by race. Again, identity politics does not solve problems. It does not solve crime. It does not solve any sort of problem. I'm all for just saying, hey, you know what? Let's just call it crime. Let's not racialize it, and let's see what kind of response certain groups of people give. Just deracialize crime, and let's see what happens.
Mm-hmm. What do you think would happen if you didn't classify
Well, I actually think there would be people who would beg to have it re-racialized.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, again, I'm not the level of conspiracy theorist that some people are, but I'm just curious. What would happen? I'm guessing that people would want it broken out by race again.
Mm-hmm. 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 So
So
what?
I don't think I think the media is just giving the people what they want. That's
Right.
what I think. If there is stereotyping, it's because America expects crime to be stereotyped.
Mm. What do you think about that, Brave? Do you think it's
I
more?
think I think it needs to be even made clear who's doing what. Are we kidding ourselves? If you really broke it down, who's shooting up the inner cities? Who's shooting domestically? Who's killing their families? You could go by. People think that the whites are doing all the child molesting. No, got whites beat in that. Blacks are arrested more for child molesting as a percentage than whites. In other words, blacks do twice the predator crimes of children than whites do. If you took the shooting in the streets, which is the most damaging of all crimes because it interrupts the lives of strangers. Again, it stops people from functioning, businesses, bus riding, public transportation. And you really looked at the damage that does, and you look at the damage that a stepdad, hillbilly white trash, comes in and kills his 3 kids and his wife. People still want to live around Whitey for a reason. That's because street crime is so horrendous and it's so pervasive and it's so dangerous. You don't even have to be doing anything wrong, and yet there's bullets flying. I'm all for it. To ban all crime is to do nothing but give blacks cover. I want every damn filthy crime there is assigned to the race by the numbers. Let's get to the bottom of this shit. Combining all the crime together. That's ridiculous. That would be right now. They already do it. You can't find out the number of blacks that are shooting up the streets. You have to put together some sort of a formula to get to that number, and you still can't.
Well,
So, so to combine crime would be doing nothing but giving the blacks cover. Because if they were shown to do what they're doing, you would see people going, wait a minute, whites are doing this, but why do I still want to live around whites? And why don't I want to live around blacks? And if they actually dissected the black crime problem, that would even get worse. People would go, damn, I didn't know it was that bad. Go ahead.
well, I do have a fact checker. So 64,124 cases were reported for this is last year for molestation, and it does break it down by race. 93% were male, and by breaking it down by race, it's 55 were committed by whites, 16% were committed by blacks, 14% were committed by Hispanics, 12% Native Americans, and 2.2 were other races.
I must apologize. What I read, the chart was from 2022. There
Mm-hmm.
were 195,000 whites that were arrested for child predating. There were 85,000 blacks that were arrested for child predator in 2022. 195,000 of 200 million is 0.1%. 85,000 of 85,000 of 40 million is 0.2%. So that was 2022, and so that's where I got that figure from. You may
Okay.
want to read your stats again, because if that's the case, they're leaving out a lot of things, and it doesn't surprise me. Or maybe they're adding to what I read, because I'm not beyond saying the media does what they want with stats. I'm not
Right.
this thing with
Right.
the media is this real upstanding or institution. Yeah, no, they're not. But yeah, but that was 2022. Child predators were double the rate of the white folks doing it. Right now, if the whites are ahead of it, so be it. But I don't care. Divide it into the category. Damn it, divide it, dissect it down to the stat, and we can see who's doing what. I'm all for that. I really am. And I don't care how bad whites look in that breaking that down like that. But we're not going to get that because the media, the stats are too busy being jumbled to protect black destruction of inner cities. Go ahead.
Stanley, you got a reply to that?
Yeah, who needs media to stereotype? I think the American people do just fine,
Mm-hmm.
and the media is just reflecting, you know, a lot of folks. What a lot of folks actually want. They want crime racialized, broken
Mm-hmm.
down into categories, just to fuel, whatever fire they may be stoking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
But you are against that though, Stanley? You don't think it should be
against what?
breaking it down racially?
Oh no, I'm not against it at all. I'm
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, gee, I wonder what if we did deracialize it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, would there still be, the same sort of stereotypes? Or I'm guessing if we just said a crime is a crime, because to be honest, I don't mean to sound flippant here. That's the last thing I want to do. But a murder is a murder. Okay, there's no white murder, there's no black murder, there's no Hispanic murder. A murder is a murder. It is a crime. And I think sometimes it's a little bit not helpful, I guess, to say, well, there's black crime, there's white crime.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we ought to do it because, kind of like medical information, it is helpful to know where the hot spots are, where the problems are. But race isn't the only way to classify crime, quite frankly. But it's how we do it. I'm not against it. I just wonder sometimes what would happen if we just said a crime is a crime.
Okay.
I'll wrap up right. This will be my last statement on it. Murder is absurd. When people are shooting up streets and bullets are killing innocent people, as opposed to whites who kill the people they know in the homes, you gotta add this up. There's a lot of white people killing other white people. People still want to live around white people for a reason, because white people are when they destroy themselves in private. When blacks destroy, they're destroying the public. They're destroying the ability of kids and men and innocent women to walk the streets and have fun at parks with the number of random gunshots that's going on in the streets. To say murder is ridiculous when you consider that the people doing these murders are including millions of strangers in their risk, and the people doing these murders are only murdering their direct relatives or loved ones. One is much more once more cancerous to the culture than the other, and the blacks shooting up the streets, bullets flying everywhere. That murder is much more destructive than some white trash killing his wife. I'm done on that.
So
Stanley?
saying destructive is destructive, whether it's private or public. There's got to be certain types of destruction. Destruction isn't destruction. Murder isn't murder.
There's a difference. I hate to break it to everybody. There's a difference between the dastardliness of the destruction. Black people, again, people still want to live around Whitey, folks. There's a reason the murders that Whitey do aren't what the murders that the blacks do, because nobody wants to live around blacks. It's kind of the tail of the tape. You got to be courageous and face that.
Um,
Can I make one response?
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So, because I need clarification. So, white murder is better than black murder. Is that what you're saying?
No, I said it's less damaging to the culture than black. Than
So
what the black.
it's better. You're making a qualitative you're making a qualitative statement about murder.
I said less destructive. I didn't say better.
Okay, so that is a qualitative statement.
Yes, less destructive to the culture.
So a less destructive murder is better than a more destructive murder?
If you need to assign better, Stanley, have at it. I said less destructive to the culture.
Okay, and so
it proves it out because everybody wants to live around whites still.
Yeah, so white murder is better. That's why people want to live around white people. Gotcha.
If you want to distort it, feel free.
Okay, so you guys brought up some very interesting points. And since we're still on this media portion of these questions, I do want to ask you both. Why does black on white crime and white on black crime get more attention by the media? Brave, Sonia.
The black on white crime is getting no attention by the media. Mm-hmm. The numbers are ridiculous. How many white people are killed by black people? And I don't really think the media is doing much on white on black crime because there's not that much of it. Mm-hmm. So I think the stats are black on white murder is like 10 times more likely to happen than white on black murder.
Well, Brave, when I say white on black crime getting more attention by the media, I'm more so talking about like when a white cop kills a black person. Why does that get so much more attention than?
Because unlike, I'm telling you, the media is not this little benevolent, innocent institution. The media is in charge of shaping our perceptions. Mm-hmm. The global corporate machine owns the media. Everything we think, do, and see, and hear and say is controlled by the overwhelming media. So what they're going to do is they're going to have blacks thinking cops are after them. What's the result? Blacks hate cops. It's not an accident. 54% of whites, 54% of the people that were unarmed people that were shot by cops, like a year ago or something like that, 54% of the unarmed people that were shot by cops were white. 36% of the unarmed people that were shot by cops were black. The media, you won't find that in the media. You have to dig for that stuff. But yet what you see, you never see whites protesting when an unarmed white person gets killed by a cops, because that's why we preserve our culture. We want that white person dead. The unarmed black person that gets shot by the cops, all of a sudden is a saint. And they do that to whip blacks into a very irrational frenzy. And I always say the blacks at this time, with tactics like that, are being used as a weapon against the American culture.
Stanley?
The media pays more attention to those sorts of things because it drives sales. Especially, someone in authority, white cop killing a black person. I mean, that's a narrative that's pretty much historical. So it sells more is the reason.
Okay. So it's pretty much all motivated by economics to you, Stanley, pretty much.
Well, they're called corporate media for a reason.
Right. Okay. Again, you guys hit the like button, subscribe, and make sure you donate for both of these gentlemen. They did take the time out of their day to have this cordial debate, and we definitely appreciate you guys. You guys are doing a very good job. The chat seems to be pretty much split down the middle. I think you both are making some great points. Next question that I have is,
Let me say for on the cash apps,
yep.
folks. I'm a very busy man. I'm taking time out of my day to do this. I just wanted to see what it feels like to say that because it's a lie, but that felt good though. God damn it! Well, I'm a busy man. I got things to do. Oh, go ahead.
Well, we definitely appreciate everybody in the audience, and definitely appreciate you, Brave, and of course you, Stanley, for doing this for us today.
I got all day, anytime.
So this is another question. Does the U.S. criminal justice system disproportionately target Black Americans? Brave, it's on you.
Yes. Yes. I don't think it's as bad as it used to be at all, but yes, they do. And that's not even questionable. Is it to the extent to where it's destroying the Black community? No, not at all. Um, uh, you'll have a lot of money that gets both blacks and whites off, but the criminal justice system will play rougher on blacks than whites, and I think they're still doing it. And you asked what as a result? What was the Does the U.S. justice system disproportionately? Yes, that's the question itself. I think they do. I think they
Yeah.
do, and I'm not giving it any credit for doing any destruction. What's the black destruction of their culture is self-inflicted. The little bit of the disproportionate inconvenience. We're all living like gods. The blacks are in second. They're not in first, but they're a real close second.
Okay. Stanley, what do you think about this? Does the U.S. criminal justice system disproportionately target Black Americans?
Well, I'm gonna, separate that justice system into parts. Street level, I think police do.
Mhm.
That's where the term racial profiling comes from. Now, once you get farther up in the food chain, now into the actual courts, there I that's almost a separate topic in my mind. When you talk about targeting, I'm thinking police level, street level. So, yes, the answer is yes. There's ample evidence to support that. However, I go one step farther. Forewarned is forearmed. I know growing up, if you know that you are being targeted, keep your nose clean.
Mhm.
Now there will be instances of false, identity, picking up the wrong person, that sort of thing. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say most of those sorts of cases do get resolved. Sometimes not the way we would like them to be, but I think a young black male specifically would, heed good advice if they know they're being targeted, stay out of trouble. Do things to minimize a reason that you might even come into contact with the criminal justice system. So, yes, and you know this, so, act accordingly.
Right. So you both pretty much agree on that then. So that's
Well,
that's
let me
good.
let me make clear right quick.
Okay.
Blacks are not being targeted. The racial profiling is for a very legitimate reason. Sorry about that, blacks. I'm not saying the sentencing process is completely equal. I said sentencing. I'm saying I'm thinking blacks. If you look in on it, and it's not that horrible, but they're getting kicked in the shins. But the racial profiling, that is absolutely a function of logic for a culture to racially profile the people that will kill another person over a tennis shoes or shoot off 20 rounds down the street. You have to profile that group because they are the ones that will kill the quickest for nothing.
Stanley, do you have a reply for that?
I do. What is racial profiling but targeting? And we can play semantic games, but if you are looking in a specific community that is targeting, and we can dance around it all we want, but that's pretty much my response.
Okay.
I agree. Let's leave it at that. He says target. I say they're profiling for a reason. That's not
Okay.
targeting. That's not targeting.
Okay. And just so people know, the reason why I have Brave answering the questions first, he did agree to it. And, Brave doesn't need anybody to hold his hand. He wants to answer these questions first and defend his beliefs. So to the people in the chat wondering why Brave is answering it first, because he wanted to. That's why he's answering it first. He's not
Yeah, and
afraid.
Yeah,
I don't have a
yeah, you,
problem with it.
yeah,
Yeah.
you can switch it up if somebody wants a few times for Stanley
Nope,
to.
I Brave answering first is just fine with me.
Okay.
It's fine with me too because I'm the one that's got the I'm the one that's got the rocks that I want to throw.
Right.
I want to hit some goddamn people between the eyes. So
All right. So let's move on. So when we
I
do,
was going
when
to
we're
say you want a target, right?
yeah, in this case, you got damn right.
so I think we all pretty much agree. America is it does have a certain level of racism kind of ingrained in it. So I want to ask you guys this question: can a society structured on racial supremacy ever be ethical or just?
Of course, we've proven that. The USA proves it.
Mhm.
We're all groups. I don't care what blacks say. All groups are racist. All groups want to be among their own. That's why I go in degrees. You got first degree racists, of which all three of us in this room are first degree in this panel are first degree racists. Then you get into the second degree bullshit and the third degree bullshit, which is much like first degree burns, no problem. Second degree, watch it. Third degree, get to the hospital. We're all first degree racists. So, and let me read this. And yes, racial supremacy, because we are at this time, whites are, I'm not saying inherent, I'm not saying whiteys are born, but I'm saying at this time, culturally, historically, whites are vastly superior to anybody on the planet. For us to deny that is crazy. We need to be proud of that. Now, can there be ethical? Yes, we've proven that. You've got the second in line, the opposite color of whites. You don't even have the between the Mexicans or the Asians. You've got white, you've got the darks. Okay? I'm not saying that nasty. I'm just saying the very dark skinned people. The darks are living like gods, right with the whites, right among the supremacy attitude that whites have. And a lot of whites won't admit it, but I will. I always tell people whites don't want you living in their neighborhood. They're afraid of what's going to come in with you, even if you're a doctor. So that supremacy has served to make one of the most fantastic cultures in the history of our species. And is there ethical? Again, the proof is in the pudding. There's no place better to live than in the USA as a black man or anybody else. That means we are very gentle, decent supremacists.
Stanley, question for you: can a society structured on racial supremacy ever be ethical or just? Go ahead, Stanley.
Yeah, but I have to say I never thought of grading racism like meat in the grocery store. So I had no idea that they were racists could be graded. I think that yeah, as long as we apply the law evenly,
Mhm.
I don't think it's something that we should leave as automatic. I think justice applied evenly is something that needs constant vigilance because there are more ways to abuse or discriminate in the law than race. There's class, there are different ways of discriminating, and we need to be constantly vigilant that we take things for granted as far as applying laws equally.
Let me make clear, Stanley, if you're going to present my position, please do it accurately. I didn't say rating racism like meat. I rated it like a burn, first degree, second degree, and third degree burns, and it's a very accurate assessment. I have to pat myself on the back with my creativity on that.
I don't recall I don't recall mentioning names, and it was during my allotted time.
Uh,
No,
well, I kind of more so, Stanley. So if America was built on racial supremacy, specifically white supremacy, um, is that ethical in nature, or is that really the only way to build a nation?
Uh, I'm not exactly sure what you're getting at. I think that there are definitely more ways to build a nation,
Mhm.
but we are one of the few nations on earth that is this diverse. If you go back, look at Europe, look at Asia, the populations tend to be a little bit more homogenous. So where you might get discrimination would be along, say, religious lines or class lines or something like that. America's not the only country that was founded, based on race. And when I say founded, what I mean is the economic structures. Racism in America was basically an economic uh, thing, and then it evolved into social, cultural, that sort of thing. I don't think it's the only way to found a nation. America, uh, while not the only one, was one of the only ones that was founded, with a specific, um, in a specific way that blacks were here, but they weren't citizens. So the answer is no. Um, but I do think, to give America credit, I mean, if you go back and you look at history, people like Thomas Jefferson knew that at some point race was going to become an issue. You go back and read Notes on Virginia. You go back and you look at Madison's notes about the Constitutional Convention. We fought a whole war over it. So we knew it, when I say we, the founders and the framers knew it was going to be an issue. Basically, they do what Congress does and what American politicians do so well. They kick the can down, kick the can up the road. So I think, to America's credit, we have gotten to a point to where everybody pretty much knows how we were founded, whether they want to admit it or not. And I think America does a pretty decent job. That constant vigilance that I was talking about. There's some eras that are better than others, but I think America at least gives it the old college try to apply justice evenly.
Brave, you have a reply to that?
no, that's like I said, it's the people that the elites of the world are white. It's only natural they're going to use white people as a buffer against everybody else. So it's only natural that we ended up in a superior position. It's not complicated. And I think we're very kind and benevolent with the vast superiority that we're behaving with in this country. We're not mean at all with it.
What? Let me ask you this, Brave. What do you think about black people and white people who want to end the idea of white supremacy?
It can't be done.
Hmm.
It can't be done. It's a silly pursuit. Whites are what whites are. We perform um, wherever we're at as a group. Wherever it's all white people, go to any place we live. If it's all whites, that's where people want to be. There's a reason, because we perform. We understand society. We don't have any any silly mercy for some criminal that we're going to make excuses for. We want him, if he's violent, we want him dead, damn near. So it's just a matter of, to end white supremacy isn't going to happen because there's nothing to replace it. If you want to replace white supremacy, you got to replace it with something. Right now, there's no replacement. I don't think there will be a replacement for 30 or 40 years, if there ever is one. But the white supremacy cannot be stopped because the elite that run the show, they're white. They're not going to give up their buffer. So good luck in thinking you're going to change the elite's mind on world affairs when they're using whites as their protective shield against all the brown people of the planet.
Stanley, same question to you. What do you think about Black people and white people who wish to end the idea of white supremacy?
Well, at the risk of doing a hot take, as long as there's stolen valor whites, it's not going to go away.
Mm. Do you think it should be ended though, Stanley?
Well, of course.
Yeah. Now, Brave said, if we did end it, what would be the replacement for that? What would you think would be the replacement for that?
I have no idea. That's conspiracy theory territory, and I don't really dabble.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea. I think that, essentially what you're asking is, will identity politics go away? And no, there will always be an identity that people want to be a part of, be it race, be it class, be it, sports, there is everything about being a human is identity politics because we're basically designed to classify things. So there will always be an identity that, more people than not will want to be identified with. White supremacy is just an identity, essentially.
Now this is kind of a different question. I do want to get both of your opinions on this because I kind of think about this often. Let me read this. So today, African Americans have stronger support for the Democratic Party than any group has for either party, voting 93% Democrat, 89%. 93% Democrat in 2012, 89% Democrat in 2016, 87% Democrat in 2020, and 88% in the last election for Democrat. Why do you think the majority of Black people vote Democrat? I'm going to start with you, Be Brave.
If you look at 2008, because I've always said this since my first look into politics in 1988, I've always noticed one thing jumped out at me immediately. Democrats are mom. They take care of domestic ailments. It's okay, honey. It's okay. Republicans are dad. Get the fuck up and walk it off, kid. Okay? It's only natural that a group of people who are about receiving handouts, because that's what blacks are about in too large numbers, are going to go for the mom party. That's not even complicated. In fact, when people talk about Democrats running the inner cities, I always say, no shit. The Republicans couldn't because they're a pack of damn liars, because if they came in and enacted the policies that they think they want to talk about to gain favor rather than reality, they would have mobs on the streets. The Democrat Party are about preventing mobs on the streets of unhoused, unfed, unemployed people. So it's only natural that the group that relies mostly on handouts, that's blacks by a long shot, handouts in every way, It's only natural they're going to go for the Democratic Party because that's the way the elites set up the two left and right nonsense. When in reality, of course, we all know both the left and right answer to the throne together. But it's only natural that the blacks, as the party that needing the handouts, would go for the party that is assigned to giving the handouts. I'm listening. I have to go get a drink of water.
Okay. Stanley, same question for you. Why is it that the majority of African Americans vote for the Democratic Party?
Well, there's a book called The Loneliness of the Black Republican that explains it nicely.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we all know that blacks didn't always vote for Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
Way back in the day, it was Republicans
Right.
for obvious reasons. I think the reason being is that Republicans, especially after the mid 60s realignment of the parties, um, Republicans tolerate racists more so than Democrats do.
Mm-hmm.
It is, they're the Nick Fuentes, sitting down and, having Thanksgiving dinner with Trump. That's just a minor example. I could just be, well, no, that's pretty much it. I've said it many times. Republicans tolerate racists,
Mm-hmm.
and Democrats, because they cater to black people, tend to be a little bit more proactive in calling racists out. The bottom line is that black people, as we know, tend to be more socially conservative than blacks are basically the most conservative voting bloc in the Democratic Party. And I think if Republicans actually took a little bit more time to basically rebuke, the Nick Fuenteses of the world, blacks would be a little bit more willing. And I think, if the numbers you read out, I think blacks are slowly but surely finding reasons, slowly but surely, to vote for Republicans,
Mm-hmm.
but not in droves. And I
Right.
don't think it's going to happen in droves until Republicans come to terms with that fact. And I could go farther about Republicans and tolerating that sort of thing, but this is as good a time as any not to get too deep into it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Brad, what do you think about that? Do you think blacks just don't tolerate the racism on the right as much as kind of more of the acceptance on the left? That may be a factor too.
No, that's ridiculous. It's all about handout.
Mm-hmm.
My God, come on, let's be real here. It's all about handouts and taking care of and free stuff. And I'm glad the Democrats do that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not one of these dumbass conservatives that go, end all the safety nets, make them black. No, I'm not one of those idiots. If there's one thing that makes me sicker than a blue-haired liberal, it's a goddamn conservative.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm saying is those handouts that are needed to keep the mobs off the street, that's why I call myself a corporatist. It's like what they're doing right now works, the handouts are what it's about. To assign some noble thing like blacks are just better at confronting immorality as far as racism and morality or anything. My God, you got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. Both races at the bottom right now are blowing in the wind. They don't even know what hit them. We're all being manipulated. So again, the blacks are voting for Democrats for handouts, and I don't blame them. I'm glad the Democrats are there to keep the mobs off the streets.
Mm-hmm. Stanley?
Well, I'm glad that I'm glad to know that blacks are being one note. Basically, to clarify what I said, I didn't say Republicans support racism. I said Republicans are more tolerant of individuals who are racist.
Right.
Democrats less so for obvious reasons. Blacks are, a pretty loyal voting bloc, and they don't want to piss off the blacks. to use a term. So the bottom line, I don't even think the Republican Party is racist. I think they tolerate people who are in their ranks and, feel comfortable letting them, speak freely. It's a free country. If you want to give people that level of free speech, you suffer at the ballot box. It's as simple as that.
Stanley, what do you think about Brave's take about the government handouts and kind of the quote unquote mommy state? Do you?
Well, I think he's basically infantilizing the black community, and I basically don't appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
okay. You got a reply to that? Be brave.
Excellent description. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm sick of blacks. Grow up. Just take a step forward, man. Take a step forward. And until you do, I want the Democrats there feeding and housing them because they're already losing their minds in the streets with violence at the bottom.
Well,
And
let me ask you this, Brave. What if the Democrats did take away these handouts? What do you think would happen?
you wouldn't want to live in this country. You would have to get form clans to protect yourself from mobs.
Jesus Christ.
I mean,
You-
think about it. They ain't
Yeah.
complicated. It's not.
Yeah.
You're going to just leave a bunch of people unfed, unhoused, and everything. And I'm not talking about blacks being the ones that in the mobs. Go ahead and take it away from both whites and blacks at the bottom.
Mhm.
Take those safety nets away. I double dog dare you. That's what amazes me that people don't appreciate them. I understand it's not if you're writing a novel on your utopia. I get it. You got your little utopia. But in the real world, we want to feed them. We want to feed the beasts at the bottom. We do. It's nothing wrong with that. And we've got plenty of money to do it. They print the goddamn money out of thin air. And I'm saying this to the elites. Thank you for keeping the beasts at bay with the printed money because we're not doing this with tax revenue. There's a lot of printed money that's flowing in with this tax revenue that they're not even showing us. That's neither here nor there. But yes, go ahead. I double dog dare for us as a nation. And the Republicans know this too. That's why you never see Republicans doing anything but offering lip service to the bullshit. They know what their role is, and that's to give us some kind of hope of like, oh, maybe we can really just pull ourselves up by our bootstraps as a culture. No, the Republicans are in on the game too. They're not innocent of this. They're voting for all of the policies that keep the beast at bay. What the conservatives do or the Democrats do in particular issue, you got one or two that cross the aisle. Doggone it, there's two that cross the aisle, and then the other group gets credit for trying. It's such a stupid game. Take away the safety nets, you goddamn fools that think we should. I dare you to. Just picture it. Man.
Stanley, what do you think if we took away these government handouts and safety nets? What do you think would happen to America?
Well, I was hoping you wouldn't ask me that. I could just end it like with, how do I follow that?
Yeah.
Now that you've asked me, I guess people would have to make do. Ron Paul years ago kind of touched on that. With that emergency room comment. I guess people would be dying in the streets and that sort of thing. And yeah, there would be. I mean, to a certain extent, Brave is right. If you go all the way back to the beginning of the country, specifically, when the Constitution was being written, yeah, elites do have to be wary of the folks down at street level. That's why they didn't want direct democracy. They wanted institutions, a republic with institutions kind of as a buffer between the man on the street and the government or the elites in particular. So yeah, there would probably be some unrest on the streets, and probably with good cause because there are going to be people dying in the streets.
Okay. All right. Well, I do want to say we are coming up on. We got about 15 more minutes. I told you guys we wouldn't go past 2 hours, and I definitely appreciate both of you. I do want to give a special shout out to Innate Ways, Deacon Dave, and Wicked. Um, uh, and there's a couple other people that donated earlier. We definitely appreciate you guys. Um, so to close out, I do want to bring up a little bit more of a topic that's kind of been in the headlines. This Austin Metcalf and Carmelo Anthony, uh, pretty much murder / self-defense. Uh, what would you guys suggest to the youth to pretty much avoid these kind of racial disputes that could, possibly put somebody in jail or have somebody get killed? What would you suggest to the youth?
I would say to the whites that the blacks are a very protected class. If you touch them, the media is going to put you as the villain. Number one, we don't know what happened here. If those whites were bullying him, I'm going fuck around and find out, Whitey. Mm-hmm. If they were, don't get me wrong. I'm not one of these go put up your dukes. I'm going, nah, you're going to bully somebody that's a lot smaller than you. You might end up fucking dead. Mm-hmm. I grew up around short dudes that were mean as rattlesnakes. They didn't care how they did it. If a big dude was going to mess with them, they're going to take care of business. And they were good people. But if that didn't happen, and the black kid was listening to the people that pissed and moaned about Whitey.
Okay, my bad. Sorry about that, Bray.
I'm sorry. I thought I muted myself. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Yeah, if the black kid was listening to the blacks that piss and moan about Whitey, I'm saying that's what happened. My bet is he was listening to Whitey and he took an advantage of a white kid that was too damn dumb to know the black royalty that we've made blacks into now, and he actually touched him. That's probably why the murder charge went forward. It's like they've got information we don't. Right. This isn't just some kid being beat up and protecting himself. Oh, it might turn out to be that.
Yeah.
And if it is, again, I'm going to go to white kids. Oh, you think you're just going to beat up somebody for the fun of it? Yeah. White people don't put up with that shit either. But, so it's a matter of, I would tell the kids, if you're going to be a racist, be a very gentlemanly racist. Mm-hmm. Because, again, racism is in 3 degrees. First degree, not a problem. You get into the 2nd degree, not good. 3rd degree, you're a piece of shit. Be your 1st degree racist self and keep your goddamn hands off of people, and understand that right now the blacks have a sort of reparations in that they're very protected in the media and all concerned. You got to be aware of that, Whitey. Don't push that. And it's not even a horrible thing. You ain't got no right messing with people in the first place, Whitey. And the black kid, I'd say he was listening to the people that piss and moan too much, and he had something in his heart about Whitey. Those white fellas did not want him around them, and they didn't have that right to him. Mm-hmm. I'm saying, black kids, if Whitey says go away, go away. It ain't no big deal. Mm-hmm.
Stanley, same question to you. What suggestions would you give to the youth on how to prevent situations like what's happened with Austin Metcalf and Carmelo Anthony?
Well, let's start with not taking a knife to school.
Yeah, that's good. Good suggestion.
He'd been suspended before. Why he decided, to take it with him, something's up with that. And quite frankly, I'll wait for the trial before I do too much speculating on it. One thing my father used to tell me, because my father had this weird talent for just showing up when I least expected him, and I was always messing up. So be where you're supposed to be. Okay, from what I understood, and I don't know if it's true or not, I just heard it out, somewhere in the wind that he had skipped class to go to this track meet. I don't know whether that's true or not, but be where you're supposed to be. You know what? Um, if you've been suspended for something, don't keep doing it. It's going to lead to no good. Just being where you're supposed to be, do what you're supposed to do. And if you're having bullying issues or something like that, don't keep it to yourself. I mean, you hear about kids committing suicide, and I heard a story about a 10-year-old, a girl, uh, killing herself because of bullying. So, parents need to insist and reinforce communications, keeping those communications lines over. With my son, you know what? I didn't want to hear every detail, but if you pay close enough attention to your children, you will actually detect changes in their usual behavior patterns. I've told a lot of people, I knew when my son was cutting up in class because his grades always went down.
Yeah.
A lot of times I would call the teacher before I even talked to him. And I can name 2 or 3 times where that just proved itself out. So pay attention to your kids, emphasize that they need to be where they should be for several different reasons. And if you're suspended for something, don't keep repeating it. It doesn't, it sounds kind of weak tea, but, to me, that's the basics.
Okay. Okay. What do you think about that, Brave?
I think this has to happen. Something has to give here. Whites are going to become, because of the destruction of the inner city blacks that are doing to the inner cities, and they're spreading out. Whites are going to become sicker and sicker and fucking more sicker of blacks. As a black person, if you're a good black person and you know you ain't looking for trouble, leave whites alone. They'll leave you alone. Now, I don't care what anybody says. Whites aren't going around hunting up blacks. Whites just want to be the hell left alone, and there's a good reason for it. Whites are sick of black behavior that's destructive, and the other blacks that aren't saying anything. Well, let the blacks take care of the blacks. That would be nice if the blacks were saying something. So as whites get sicker and sicker of blacks, if you're a smart young black man, stay the hell away from whites that don't want to be around you. It's okay. Stop taking shit personally. You're living like a god in a place where you can spit in the fucking wind and it comes back money. Don't blow that with worrying about Whitey. Whitey don't like you. They like you when they get to know you, but they don't like you immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Leave them alone and you go off in your way. Get with your black partners. And in fact, there's a lot of whites that will like you and want to be around you. Seek that out. If this kid, if he was told to leave, should have left. Get the hell out of there, man. You were asked to leave. If I was in a crowd of blacks and they said, get your white ass out of here, I'd go, yes, sir. I'm out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Blacks need to understand there's humility. Stop putting it in a battle zone. Whites know how to be whites know humility when they're supposed to practice it. Blacks need to practice it. It's okay. Be smart.
Sorry about that. There's a jet flying past. I don't know if you guys can hear it. Hold on.
No, I didn't.
Okay. Yeah, live near air base, so it's always jets going. Well, I have two last questions, and this is going to be the last question. So, because I do want to hear both of your guys' ideas on this. What do you guys think about? What is your stance on interracial dating? I'm gonna start with you, Be Brave.
I think it's a positive.
Okay.
I do. If my daughter came home with a black man, I'd just say I'd be worried about him and what he performs and what he does in life.
Mm-hmm.
If she came home with a white trash piece of shit, I'd say, what are you, crazy?
Mm-hmm.
So the interracial dating in the future, and I know there's a lot of people that cringe on this. I don't care. I'm about humanity, not races. I'm race right now because we're having such problem racially, but I'm a humanist kind of.
Mhm.
The human condition will get better as the races become less distinct. I know there's a lot of people. Isn't our strength? It's not, diversity isn't our strength. The racial intermixing will take a lot of headaches off of both races as the time goes on, because it's going to happen a lot more and more. I don't see a problem with it. The only problem with that I see with it is, again, let the whites be the whites and the blacks be the blacks until that happens. And as if you want to interracially date, I would in fact I would advise any black man. Black women are too much of a headache and too large in numbers. Get you a white woman. Have a life. Get you a white woman in this world. Learn what it's like to just go through life with a partner rather than somebody that's competing with you. Get a white woman, black man.
Wow. Brave, I think most people would be kind of surprised you would have that take. But listen to Brave, black men, he said, get you a white woman. Stanley, what's your opinion? What's your stance on interracial dating?
Well, I think and maybe I didn't quite hear it correctly, but using and I've heard a lot of people in this space and other spaces, interracial marriage as a social, um, what's the term for it? Basically, correcting America's race problem
Hmm.
via
Hmm.
that's not going to happen. Um, I think that the best thing I can offer, especially if you're a black person, man or woman, marrying outside, you know it's there are going to be days, and there won't be many days. They're going to be every now and again. You're going to get a look or a comment or something like that. You need to understand that, and then I hear a lot of examples of, hey, my wife's family didn't talk to us for like 15 years, and then
Hmm.
finally, once the grandkids, that kind of greased the skids. I was lucky. My father-in-law and I, especially after my wife died, we're as close as in-laws can be. I mean, he's about as shit. He's probably closer to me than my father is. I see him. I see him more often.
Hmm.
But just know what you're getting into. It's going to take a certain level of maturity, and luckily for me, I was in my upper 30s when I met my wife. So I was pretty much like, you know what, I'm going to do what I want to do because I'm almost 40 and I know what I'm doing. So there were probably one or two people who might look askance or something like that, but I'm not depending on them for anything. I make money. I'm going to do what I want to do. I would suggest don't. I'm a romantic. Is cantankerous as John Galt calls me as I can be. I am a romantic. I don't
Hmm.
think you should marry for social policy, or you should marry because it'll make America's race situation better. You should marry because you actually enjoy the person, love the person. Don't take that sort of thing for granted, because I kind of did, and you know what? You don't know what you have until you lose it.
Hmm.
So people need to be a lot more mindful of especially if you're in a good relationship, you need to cherish it, and it's hard to do, but listen to an old man. I know of whence I speak, but as long as you're doing it for, I know I'll sound syrupy, but as long as you're doing it for love,
Yeah.
doesn't really matter who you marry. Um, and I just to make this, this editorial, I'm kind of like, I as long as he's good looking and smart, color is just a thing.
Okay. All right. I think you guys both pretty much agree on that. Then it's just as
Well,
long as
let
they're
me make one thing clear. I'm
good.
not implying that people should marry interracial to repair anything. I'm saying it's only natural.
Hmm.
As it's only natural, and you need to let nature happen. You can't stop love in action, is an old song.
Hmm. Okay. Well, all right. So this is the final question, gentlemen. And I definitely appreciate you guys. I'm not sure if we're going to have an after show because I'm sure everybody has their opinions on this. So this is the final question.
Hold it. If you do, you're going to end this stream, though,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, absolutely. This is yeah. We're going to end this one.
Yeah. I don't want to
So
be done with nonsense when everything's so
yeah,
logical.
no, yeah, no. You know, people are going to be
Panels get out of hand.
yeah, yeah. People are going to be very opinionated on this. So yeah, we're going to make sure we end this.
Good.
So final question. What do you consider to be the most admirable quality of the United States, and what, in your opinion, represents its most critical flaw?
The most critical flaw is for us to keep falling for going across and stealing natural resources under the guise of freedom.
Mhm.
We're terrible at that. We're mercenaries. The world needs mercenaries. Okay, we're not freedom fighting anywhere. We're disrupting, dismantling countries to get their resources for cheap, and that we as a populace are led, because we're led into it, is something that I can't believe. It's one thing to be a 20-year-old and silly. When I see 60-year-old people not catching on, 50 and 60-year-old people not catching on to the fact that soldiers are mere mercenaries and have always been, including those two world wars where they divided up the world like they wanted. That's the most disastrous trait. The most admirable one is two-bit fucking loser that lived like a god in this country. I never worried about a damn thing. All I had to do was get up and go work, and money fell in my lap. That's what's magnificent about this country, the ability to take and feed and house yourself and your family. I don't care if you got to do 2 or 3 jobs. Those 2 or 3 jobs are out there for you to get. This country right now, I'm telling you, I don't say it because I'm a smartass. Compared to the rest of the world, even Europe, we're living like gods. So whatever this country is about, you can't discount that. If you compare it to the rest of the world, you don't get to discount that. We have God status. I don't know for how much longer. But God damn it, that's something to behold. And it makes me sick that so many people don't appreciate that and can find stupid little shit to complain about while we're all, even at the bottom, living like gods.
Stanley, closing question: what's the most admirable quality of the United States, and what, in your opinion, represents its most critical flaw?
I think the most admirable is even if you go all the way back into, um, let's just start at 1776. America's always found a way to, kind of, let's just say, reward its people who are outstanding. That's I'm thinking back of can't I don't even remember the exact names in the time, but way back, this is like maybe late 1700s. There was a black guy in New York City, who opened like an oyster restaurant.
Mhm.
He became a rich black man, free black, in New York City because he opened a restaurant and his oysters were excellent, and people flowed down to that restaurant. And I haven't thought about it in years. I'll have to look up the
It's
exact details of
Thomas
it.
Downing.
Okay. Well,
Thomas.
good. You know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, if you have a new widget and it's a great widget,
Mhm.
it doesn't really matter whether you're black or white or whatever. You will make a living at a minimum, and you might get rich making that living. America's always been good about that. I think where America goes wrong two things. It is basically sloughing off education and training its kids to critically think. It's going to come back to bite us, and I think it's coming back to bite us sooner rather than later.
Mhm.
I think the other thing that America does is it does not correct its hypocrites. Um, we get too comfortable in assuming that we are great because of our skin color or we are great because we're American. Hubris is the Greek. Everybody learns it in high school. Um, Flying too close to the sun. There are all kinds of Greek tragedy examples. When you get too complacent and you think everything falls into place without actually working to maintain your greatness, that's when you fall the hardest. So that is America's great at rewarding excellence. It is also bad in thinking excellence comes easy.
Mhm.
That's it.
All right, gentlemen. Uh, Final words. Be brave. Final words. I'll put you on the big screen.
There is, you have here, I'm not bragging, but you have here an old two-bit loser that took a lot of good notes in life. I'm kidding you. I don't think I've read 8 books front to back. I've read a lot of stuff. You got Stanley over here. He says he's reading 1,000 books. This is what I'm saying to people in America don't understand. This country is so, we're the library of the planet. You go into a library to think and to learn. This U.S. country is the library of the planet. You don't have to be all that interested in reading other people's thoughts. You have to develop your own. That's what we don't do. Develop your own thinking. It's wonderful to get facts and read a lot of books and other opinions. Kant said you read too many books and you lose your own thinking. And I haven't read Kant. That's just a quote that I seen him. And I loved it because it's like, hello, I kind of agree with that. Take good notes, assess things properly, leave your stupid emotions out of it, be honest with yourself. And this country is a library where even I don't care who you are, you can become a very wise individual if you keep your headlights on. That's how easy it is in this country to learn. It's tranquil outside of the inner cities. It's tranquil in the streets. Everywhere you go, it's ease of living. Stanley said it. The wealth doesn't come easy all the time, but it's right around the corner if you go for it. There's no place like it on earth. And the fact that we got so many goddamn people that think like children when they're 40 and 50 makes me sick to my goddamn guts. And that comes under where Stanley was talking about. We don't really understand the value of just thinking. He calls it critical thinking. I don't use fancy words. I just think fancy. We don't think. That's what's sickening. We need to start doing that. Doesn't matter what you're about. Look around you, think a little bit, understand what you're a part of, and count your blessings every day, the minute you wake up, because you're in a place where I'm ending on this, folks. You all know it. We live like gods here.
Thank you, Brave. Salute. We do have some more cash apps coming in, so I'll make sure I get those sent out to you. And as always, definitely appreciate you, Brave.
See you later, man.
Take care. Yep. Stanley, final word, Stanley. Stanley Cross.
Well, that was a great closing statement by Mr. Be Brave. I want to basically just say that the reason people read books is mainly to extend your range to form original thinking. Uh, of course, you can never read a book and have original thoughts. The reason I read books is because now I can have critical thoughts or I can think original thoughts about a wider range of stuff that I'm actually interested in. And I could give examples, but I won't bother. I want to be able to think on a broader range of topics other than America good, Black people bad. I want to think other things. I want to think beyond, that sort of just that level of thinking. So I think America begins on the inside of your front door. We need to do better with our parenting.
Thank you very much, Stanley.
Yes,
Man,
sir.
you and Brave were both gentlemen today, and I really appreciate it, man.
You didn't think I could do it, did you?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I really appreciate it, though. Absolutely not. You guys were both gentlemen, and I
All
think
right.
the audience and everybody watching really appreciated it. But all right, Stanley, I'm gonna close this one out.
Okay,
You got
one
any
quick
last thing?
thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Look in the chat. T had a good idea.
Mhm.
Um, and
Which,
we can talk offline. So yeah, just drop me,
okay.
and I'll see y'all later.
All right. That was the great debate. The debate for America, Stanley Cross versus Be Brave and Think, hosted by yours truly, HB2N. You know, I really appreciated both of them for taking the time out of their day to do this. They didn't have to do it. They both are very opinionated gentlemen. You know, I love to listen to my elders and the wisdom that they have, whether I agree with it or not. And I just wanted to provide a more of a structured place that they could, you know, let people view and understand their viewpoints so we could all learn a little something and not be screaming and yelling at each other. And I think we had more of a discussion than a debate, but I think both of them brought a lot to the table. And hopefully it's some things that you guys can learn from and, you know, add it to your lives. I really appreciate everybody who hit the like button, commented in the chat. We had a lot of clones in the chat today. Appreciate you guys. I want to give us a big salute to Innate Ways, Deacon Dave, Wicked, Herman. I think, let me see. I think even Virgo sent a Cash App. Salute to Virgo. And just for anybody else that's listening, if you guys do want to have a debate and you want to debate with somebody, let us know over here at the Urban Landlord. I will provide a equal, safe environment for you to speak your truth, speak your opinions, and hopefully we could be gentlemen. You know, my whole thing is I want to represent the change that I would like to see in the world. So, you know, providing a platform for Brave and Stanley to be gentlemen and, you know, give their opinions. I think that's what America really wants to see. They want to see men be gentlemen, be leaders, and be civil and discuss things like gentlemen, you know? So, yeah, appreciate you guys. Salute to everybody. I hope you guys were entertained, learned something, and yeah, I'm out of here. Hit the like button. Um, yeah, T. The poll is pretty split. That lets you know just how good both of them were. That the poll is split. That lets you know these both of them really had some great points. I think both of them did. We might even have to do a round two. Who knows? Who knows? But I know there's a lot of other people that would like to debate, and yeah, we're gonna get to it. Anyway, Herman said we came for the shits. Yeah, I get it. I get it. There's places where you can see that. You know, I rather represent the change I would like to see. I'm not going to complain about other people. You know, I want to do. I think men should be more gentlemanly, and that's just my perspective. So as always, God bless America. God bless the chat. We might do a show about this show a little bit later. I'm not sure. But I appreciate everybody in the chat. Thank you. And you guys have a great rest of your day. Take care.